Hello, I am Arindam Mallick. You all are welcome to my Python programming basic course. Our today's topic is for loop. Let's start. First, if you are in, uh, in any programming language, there is a for loop and while loop. Okay? I already explained the while loop. Now, the syntax of this for loop is for there is a variable var in sequence. That means we are using this is a membership operator. In sequence means we are checking that this var variable is belong or member, that means belonged on the sequence or not. If it is belong, that means go to the indentation block, which is the indentation block statement block. Now we are discussing about range function. This is a function we are required for loop. This range function is built in function in Python. Built in Python means already Python have that function. It's a built-in function that used to iterate over the sequence. That means for loop. Loop means what? Iteration. Loop means iteration. Work the same work multiple times. Iteration. So range function is a built-in function in Python that used to iterate over a sequence. That means for iteration on a sequence we use this range function. Syntax of this range function is we using a first bracket, there is a break, end and step. That means range begin means which are from where the start, that is begin, then end, when where the up to what end, then step. I also explained when we implement the code, but for now just keep in mind there is a syntax for range. Range break means begin, then ending, then step. So range function is basically built-in function in Python used to iterate over the sequence. Means for iteration over a sequence we use the range function. Now thing is that normally every number is incremented by 1 in range function if we are not defining our step. That means for an example in C programming, what is the syntax of the for loop? For like I equals to 0, then semicolon, I less than n, I then colon, semicolon, I plus plus. How much incremented? 1. That means this step, if we are not defined like step value, automatically our range function is used as to increment by 1. Now, range function have a special property. What? Range function works with a start means break to end minus 1. For an example, if you are take like break value as 1, that means 1 comma 11 for an example, like is go range function go starting from 1 to 10, that means end minus 1, starts from starts to end minus 1. Now go to the Python shell. Now this is a code of a for loop. Write a program for using for loop to calculate the factorial of a number. Num equals to int input, enter the number. Okay, means we know that already you are habituated that we are using input function for taking the input. Data type means we are typecasting because we take the num value as integer. That's why we are typecast here. That int bracket input, enter the number. Now we are checking that the logic is if num we check that num is equals to 0. That means if num is 0, check if num equals to 0, then go to the indentation block or block of it. Fact equals to 1. That means assign this fact with 1. Now if not, now you know that what is the if else statement. Same, if there is a, now this fact is under the block of if. Now this fact is not under the if. This is a go to the else part. Means if this fact, now for an example, if this fact is here, that means this is under the block of if. Now if this under on the this, like there's a state, okay, means beside, this is means the outside of the if. This is a else statement, like else means our condition is not true, then fact is assigned with 1. Now go to the for loop. For I in range 1 comma num plus 1. Why is using the num plus 1? For an example, I already told you that from starting to num means end minus 1. That's why if one, that means this num I actually work with num plus 1 minus 1. That means obviously 1 to num. This we have printed from 1 to num. Now go to the body of block, means indentation block here, indentation sign. Fact equals to fact star I. That is a logic. Fact is assigned with fact star I. Then we are printing like factorial of like num comma is fact. These are basically logic of factorial in Python. So if we are keeping observing that on our starting of our course, our introductory part, I told that Python code is length is very small. If you are observed on the C or Java, like the all another languages, the length of the code is high, very huge to write as factorial code. But in Python, how many lines are take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just 7 lines of code are over. There is a magic of Python. Now press on F5. So our source code not be saved. So for saving, Control S. Now F5. Now enter a number. For an example, we are going to calculate the factorial of 5. So enter 5. We got press enter. So yes, right result are showing the factorial of 5 is 120. Now multiplication. This is a multiplication table. We are printing the multiplication table of n. So we are taking the input n equals to input n, enter the value of n. Now here, though it is printed, now I told you another thing. So go to the Python shell. For an example, like here take a value like a assigned with 10. How can you find the what is the data type? Means there is a in Python there is a where you are not previously declared on the compile time. On the when I write our code, source code on Python, we are not declared data type. But if you want to know what is data type of a, then we use the type function. Type on that you are write the variable type of a, like based on enter class int. That means the variable is integer. That means a is a integer type. Now for an example, let's take a variable another b 2.5. Now based on enter. Now same way type like b. What is the printed class float? That means b is a float data type. Data type is float. Now so same way we are using here also we need a typecast because we take the value n as an integer, right? That's why we required it. Now print the multiplication table of n. Now for I in range 1 comma 11, that means what? Now tell me about I have a question to you that tell me how much time the loop are executed from starting from 1 to 10, because ender minus 1 1 comma 11 we are means big value. What is starting from 1 means first I value was 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Means there is a logic are different, man. Means first I value is 1. How much means how much time the loop are executed? Means which value? Up to 10. Means I value 10, then stop up to 10. Now why not 11? Because Python in range function take the back to end minus 1. That means 11 minus 1. Go to the n 10. Now print the n. We are printing the basic logic is n star I. Now based on F5 we are must save it. So F5 into the invalid syntax. Why? Okay, we are right. There is a error some. We will write the function another time like input like enter a number, okay, like colon, enter a number. For an example, we take like 2. Yes, 2, the multiplication table of 2 are printed using for loop. This is a code, right? The thing is that